Hey everybody, welcome back to Kayfabe Critique. I'm David.
I'm Jason. Y'all got to bear with me. Dallas and the Saints are in a battle right now, so y'all want to just bear with me because this game is so important. Not more important than y'all though.
And so, this episode, the second episode of tonight, is going to be a topic that we'll actually cover in multiple parts. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the original Degeneration X.
Yeah, they just brought them back this year. Established in 1997. We're going to dig into it and again, we're talking about another thing that really drew me back into wrestling.
Yeah, and so we, just covered, Mike Tyson, which helped pull a lot of eyes to it. And this was one of the groups that helped with all those new people looking in to help hold that attention there.
Right.
So when you think of the original Degeneration X, what comes to mind?
Suck it.
Yeah, so, when I think of Degeneration X, like the original Degeneration X, I truly think of, the dawning of the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
These guys were pushing the envelope.
They weren't just pushing it, they were they were pushing it, punching it, kicking it, spitting on it, telling it to suck it. They were telling the envelope to basically kiss its,
Yeah, they were going much farther than anyone had ever went in terms of, that sexual innuendos and, over-the-top behavior. JR referred to it multiple times as sophomore behavior. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is, as they described it, they took the sense of humor they had in the back and just brought it out onto camera.
Yeah, they were just being themselves. And when people are being themselves, you can tell. When people are just being themselves and having fun, you can tell. And it comes off so much more genuine. And that's why people say they get over, just by being themselves with the volume turned way up.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's get into how it started. So, are you ready?
No! I said, are you ready?
So, we're in the heat of the Monday Night Wars. WCW has taken the lead. And
by far.
And two of the guys that were pivotal in creating that lead, two of the guys that were very instrumental in WCW taking over the Monday Night Wars, the two cornerstones of the NWO were Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, two members of the Clique. Mm-hmm. They continue to add to that NWO popularity when they bring in another member of the Clique, with Sean Waltman as Six. A lot of people will know him later on as X-Pac. They come into the NWO and they start doing gestures and things that were really Clique stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're doing it on camera. And people are like, oh, this is cool. They're getting into the NWO. On the flip side of that, you have Triple H and Shawn Michaels, the other two members of the Clique, basically begging to be allowed to be a group. Like, hey, this is our stuff they're doing. Mm-hmm. Let us be a group. We can pull the attention back in as well. It's not happening. WCW continues to run rampant through the ratings. We all know 83 consecutive week winning streak. But as we're heading into August of 1997, coming up through the summer, we're building up to SummerSlam. And in SummerSlam, we're going to see Triple H versus Mankind inside a Hell in a Cell, inside a cage match. And at the same time, we're going to see Bret Hart versus The Undertaker for the WWE Championship with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee. And in this main event, Bret's going to use a chair while Shawn's distracted. Shawn's going to get in the ring, see the chair, question Bret about it. Bret's going to spit in his face. Shawn's going to try to hit Bret with the chair, miss, and hit The Undertaker. We know from here that the next night, August 4th, 1997, Monday Night Raw, Shawn Michaels comes out and he's basically saying, everyone's blaming him and not taking responsibility for their own actions. And Shawn starts to turn himself into a heel for the first time in over 2 years.
Yeah, and this was an interesting time because you've got, Sean is kind of flirting with being a heel because they're doing a lot of shows between Canada and the United States, and there's already heat between Sean and Bret. Sean is a heel in Canada, and he's kind of like a tweener at this point when you're in the United States, because there's really not a black and white anymore in this era. I gotta turn this off. I gotta turn this down because people are talking trash about the Cowboys, and I can't stand that. And but the lines are starting to get blurred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely starting to go into what was a key notion of the Attitude Era of shades of gray.
Mm-hmm.
And so we continue to see this play forward on the next week, Monday Night Raw, August 11th, 1997. The new WWE commissioner, Sergeant Slaughter, comes out. Commissioner Slaughter orders that Shawn Michaels will be in the ring that night against Mankind. Shawn Michaels is saying that he feels his back is against the wall, and so he's got a big insurance policy there tonight. And it makes you wonder, was that kind of a play to try to get people to think that maybe Kevin Nash was coming over? Initially when he brought out his insurance policy, his bodyguard, it was Diesel, who was Kevin Nash. Later on, he brought out Sid as an insurance policy, as a bodyguard. And so, makes you wonder, especially with this, big, was he trying to get people, were they saying, hey, let's try to make people think Nash is going to come walking out?
I think he was, because during this era, you didn't know if somebody was going to show up on one channel or the next based on how things were going. And also that's kind of how Hall introduced that he was going to bring Nash out when he brought him to the NWO.
Yeah, when he kept saying that, his big buddy. And so, when you think about, this night is really the beginning of Degeneration X, because Shawn Michaels goes in the ring with Mankind, and if you haven't seen this match, go watch it. It's the main event, August 11th, 1997, that Monday Night Raw, the main event of the show, Shawn Michaels versus Mankind. If you've seen the September of 96 match, the In Your House Mind Games match, which is Mick Foley considers the best match of his career, definitely a very good match there. But this match, this August of 1997, in my opinion, could have been better than that one if they had given the same amount of time.
I agree, because there's just, I don't know what it is about this match. I think it was just kind of where the story was going at this time, and how when you're going against Mankind, you have to step up the level of violence automatically. What Shawn did at the Mind Games match, and then he's doing it again here, which personally, I think the August 11th match is better.
Yeah, and that's what I think. If they had more time, it would be just as memorable as the Mind Games match was. But yeah, in my opinion, I also thought it was a better match. I love watching this match. So fast-paced and such a good storytelling. And, Shawn always having that, catch-as-catch-can style of where he could adapt to whoever he's wrestling with. He would adapt to Mankind's style and bring out the best in people. Mm-hmm. And so, as this match goes on, Triple H, who had the match with Mankind at SummerSlam in the steel cage, comes out to help interfere with the match, as well as the new insurance policy is revealed of Rick Rude returning to WWE.
Which, for those of you who don't know, Ravishing Rick couldn't wrestle anymore at this point because it wasn't a match with Sting that he got injured in. Ravishing Rick had been a major star in WWF back in the late 80s,
and early 90s.
I think he left in 1990. And this is his first time being seen back in there for 7 years.
Yeah, and he had, he went to WCW and had a good run. Rick Rude of '94 was a good run. But yeah, here he is returning back. And if you really hadn't paid attention to the character of Rick Rude was an lighter, early version of the Attitude Era, way before there was an Attitude Era.
Yeah.
You know, the sexual innuendos that he would talk about, putting his opponent's wife's faces on his trunks.
Yeah.
I mean, he was Attitude Era before there was an Attitude Era.
That's a great point. I never really thought about that. I mean, like, he would come out, I mean, basically do the striptease thing, I mean, and dude was ripped.
He was, and he had that, if you think of what, you know, DX personified, Rick Rude kind of fit that.
Yeah, last name was Rude.
And so, you know, we continue rolling on. You know, the next week, Monday Night Raw, August 18th, 1997, Shawn Michaels and Triple H tag teaming against Undertaker and Mankind.
So we have the first time that they team up.
Yep, and that was it. They were off and running. They lose a match by disqualification because Shawn hits the Undertaker with a chair, but that was it. They were off and running. This carried them into Ground Zero, where Shawn Michaels faced the Undertaker for the first time. You know, we can see it continue on further, you know, as Bad Blood approached with the Hell in a Cell. They're now the official group, but they're calling themselves the Clique, and not referring to themselves as Degeneration X.
Right, and what if was that like, that the name Degeneration X is coming. It hasn't happened yet, but the group is together. I mean, are they doing, I don't know that they're doing the cross chops just yet.
Yeah, they are starting to do stuff like that, and they have a lot. They're doing basically everything that would see DX, just not the official name yet.
Right.
And so after the Hell in a Cell with Undertaker, as they're sitting in the back and they're, because the Hell in a Cell match was for the #1 contender spot, Shawn gets the win over the Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. He's now #1 contender to face Bret Hart at the infamous Survivor Series 97. But on the build-up to that is when they switch from calling themselves the Clique to Degeneration X in a promo where Shawn Michaels talking to Bret Hart saying he's tired of Generation X getting a bad rap.
Yeah, and I remember, like, the promo where, like, the first night after Hell in a Cell, actually at Kemper Arena, I mean, they're in Shawn and Hunter are in the ring talking, like, they're going to show the footage, and then they end up flashing back to the curtain call.
Yes.
Just to mess with Vince McMahon. So I mean, that's one of those moments where you're just like, these dudes is wild.
Yeah, and so that's definitely where I was wanting to go. So we just covered how the group comes about, but let's talk about that early incarnation of Degeneration X. So that early version of Degeneration X, they were exactly like, you know, like you had mentioned, they were kind of rude, they were kind of wild, they were disrespectful and obnoxious. And, you know, we talked about Sergeant Slaughter was the commissioner, and they would refer to him as Commissioner Slobber.
I mean, I'll just point to this picture for those who can't see us and just listening. Who gets these welder headsets and puts windshield wipers on them? I think that's like Zach Morris Saved by the Bell and Mr. Belding type stuff. And these are grown men, and that's just genius.
Yeah, and you talk about the stuff that they're doing at the time that was just so funny, just so things that you wouldn't expect to see. Like you can hear Jerry the King Lawler just laughing hysterically as Shawn and Triple H are, you know, kind of doing the like scared face to each other, like looking back as Bret Hart's talking to him. And, you know, and he can't control how hard he's laughing. And we continue to see stuff like that. We see them sitting on the ramp, holding up signs of like, you know, who booked this, China holding a sign, Vince spank me.
I'd rather be in China or something like that.
Yeah, and so, you know, holding the signs up, you know, and doing goofy things like that. We've seen him, eating the bananas at the announcer's table.
I just thought about that too.
Bringing out after Survivor Series, bringing out the mini Brett.
Oh man, I mean, the fact that they went there right after Survivor Series was ballsy.
Right, and then they continue to build stuff up. So you have shortly after that, they have Degeneration X as hot. It's going strong. You have your champion there. Within Shawn Michaels, and he's both the WWE champion and the European champion. And they lead into their own pay-per-view, Degeneration X in your house, where Shawn faces Ken Shamrock, Triple H faces Sergeant Slaughter. It's important to note that Rick Rude is gone now at this point.
Yeah, Rick Rude became the only man to appear on Raw and Nitro in the same night, because there were nights when where Raw would actually be taped. They would do one live on Monday night, and then Tuesday night they would do one. They would actually tape one for the next week, just to kind of cut costs, because Vince had a very long range vision of how to cut costs and save money. So Rick Rude basically leaves right after the night. Right after the screw job, because having the history he had in the business, he did not appreciate how Brett got treated, and
in his defense, he wasn't under contract.
That's true.
He wasn't under contract. They were just kind of doing a nightly deal with him, and so he's there for Survivor Series. He's there for the Raw after, and then Tuesday, which they filmed the following week's Raw. And so after that Tuesday, he signed with WCW, and where he's on one channel, he's standing there with a full beard with Degeneration X. On the other channel, he's walking out with just a mustache.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just sending a text because people are talking trash. I'm just repeating. Dallas won.
But they continue to do stuff that you had never seen before, pushing the envelope, like a strip poker game in the middle of the ring.
Yeah. Can we go back real quick though, because we talked about the pay-per-view Degeneration X, but can we go back to the night where Slaughter ordered Shawn Michaels to defend the European Championship against Triple H?
Yep. So yeah, that's definitely coming up to that. So Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Shawn Michaels hadn't defended the European title. He won it back in September.
Yeah, the one night only pay-per-view.
Yeah, one night only over in England against the British Bulldog. He wins the European Championship. He hadn't defended it. They order him to defend it against Triple H.
Right, and Slaughter thinks he's got him. He thinks he's got him. Didn't they kind of act like they were mad at each other that night too?
Yeah, they act like they're mad at each other, and they tease the match initially. They start coming out, and Owen Hart, who started attacking Shawn Michaels after the Degeneration X In Your House pay-per-view, kind of like the fallout from Survivor Series, attacks initially. And so they have to put the match on hold, and then they come back later on the night to do it again, and they're both wearing the China Syndrome shirts, like they're both trying to fight to see whose side China's going to be on.
Right. So this is just hilarious. And if you watch this match, the way they're doing the crossing the ropes action and stuff like that, they're just going over the top. And wasn't this the first finger poke of doom?
That's what I was getting ready to say, which is actually interesting because this was 13 months before the finger poke of doom.
Yeah.
I think the difference is this was something you would expect from Degeneration X.
Yes.
You would expect Degeneration X to, outsmart Sergeant Slaughter. You would expect Degeneration X to do it in a way that's just going to make a mockery out of everyone.
Yeah, and with WCW, they basically shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, which I think if it wasn't for the poke and such a big bump off of it, had Nash just walked out and just gently laid down and Hogan pinned him, I don't know if it would have been as big of a deal as what it's been all these years later.
True. That's another episode for another
Yes,
time.
exactly. So let's talk about some of the other stuff they did. Like a barbecue at ringside. So Shawn Michaels would go on at Royal Rumble to face the Undertaker, and the match that actually injured his back.
Right.
But doing a barbecue at ringside, and just doing little things like he puts a marshmallow on each side of a hot dog and holding it up for a phallic symbol in the ring, and China pulls out the giant kielbasa. And
Yeah, and Triple H wearing a shirt that says "Suck the Cook," and I mean, then you got we got to go down to this.
Yes, the Christmas episode where they strip down. It's actually the same episode to defend the European title.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah, so they strip down with their Cena faces on their thongs, and the Cena never looked so good. And so, this, that kind of maybe the most iconic moment out of all these that we have captured on the screen here is the State of the Union.
Yeah.
Where the things they were doing were so over the top and it just pushing out of, and it's such a sexual nature that stuff hadn't been done on TV at this point. And USA Network is starting to send letters to the WWE to talk about, possibly taking them off the air.
Which would have literally killed their business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without television, the WWE product would die.
Right.
And that, WCW would have won hands down. It would basically have been a forfeit. And so, they're hitting, Shawn Michaels and Triple H with it, like, guys are going to take us off the air. You can't do this. And they go out and they use USA's words against them.
Again, genius. I mean, who thinks to do that? All this is on the line, and you're just like, they're writing you this serious letter, and you just take the letter and you read it right there on air, and just do it in such a way that, every time I watch it now, I just start cracking up.
And so all this is leading into Shawn got hurt at the Royal Rumble. Austin wins the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
We're building up towards WrestleMania 14. So, we're seeing the original Degeneration X kind of slowly coming to an end. We know it'll lead up to WrestleMania 14, where Shawn Michaels will defend against Stone Cold with Tyson as a special enforcer. After that match, Shawn's gone. And we'll see the next version of Degeneration X, which we'll cover in another episode. But, thinking back to the original Degeneration X, what would you say is your favorite moment?
My favorite moment, I would have to probably say State of the Union. Because that just captures everything about them.
Yeah, I thought the State of the Union was good. One of the ones to me that I thought was really funny was the night that Shawn Michaels faced Flash Funk. It starts off early in the ring with Slaughter telling him that he's going to be facing Flash Funk and that they need to start showing him respect. And Shawn's like, "Okay, Sarge, we'll start showing you some respect." Suck it. And so then Flash Funk hits the ring. Kane comes out, choke slams Flash Funk, leaves him laying. Shawn comes running in the ring and just jumps on him to pin him, and then gets up and just running victory laps like it was the hardest fight of his life.
Right.
And Rick Rude making the announcement of the winner, he's like, he's the showstopper, the main event, the pecan, and they're like, pecan. And China has whispered to him, "No, icon." And so, yeah, it was the little things like that I always think back of with the original Degeneration X and find myself laughing about. So.
Yeah, it's hard to just pick one moment. Again, we got the welder's cat hats with the windshield wipers. We got the promo in Kansas City, which is near and dear to my heart. That's really the one that started the road towards Montreal. It's just hard to pick out one moment.
Or, I mean, the moment we talked about when they came up with the name Degeneration X, I mean, just that promo where they're just the things that they're saying to Bret Hart, like, we know you're getting older, you're jerking the curtain, and Triple H is gonna wrestle Bret Hart, and he's like, I'm younger than you, and Sean's like,
everybody's younger than him. I'm better than you? Well, everybody's better than him.
Yeah, and then it's like, I'm definitely bigger than you.
Good God, you can poke an eye out with that thing.
Yeah, it's just little promos like that. I mean, that made the original Degeneration X, and it was a different feel of that DX than other DX versions.
Yeah, it definitely was, because later versions were more about, I don't know, it seems like some of the sexual stuff kind of went away from later versions.
Yeah, it definitely died down. So, I mean, it was still there in the next version of DX, but as time went on, it kind of died down, and it just became they became cool.
Yeah, because, I mean, they're supposed to be heels. However, with the way that the world was going at this time, I mean, what was going on with the NWO on the other channel, I mean, they were cool heels, so naturally the fans started to cheer them. And in this era, just like any other era, if the fans cheer you, you're a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, technically, Austin was a heel. But however, the crowd starts cheering him, he's a babyface. So, I mean, that's just you have to listen to the crowd and give people what they want. I mean, so they wanted Degeneration X, they wanted to cheer DX, make them babyfaces.
So, knowing that a lot of the stuff that the NWO did that helped drive NWO popularity was stuff that came from the Clique. Knowing a lot of stuff that Degeneration X did that brought in people's attention was stuff from the Clique. How big could it have been if the Clique had ever been the group together on TV?
Ooh. If that had happened, I don't think there's a Monday Night War.
Right, yeah. Had they been able to form a group before, they went to WCW, they may have stayed.
Yeah, they may have stayed, but then it's almost like the company would have been too top heavy. So, I mean...
Yeah, because I almost think had they done that, could it have pulled enough attention in? Like, could they have got the same reaction that people would have gave for the NWO, but over here?
I don't think so. Only because what really got the NWO over was having Hogan turn. Because that was something people had never seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, Hogan started off as a heel. When he first came to the WWF, he started off as a heel, but he wasn't the name, he wasn't like the household name that he was in 1996, and he hadn't gone through like the steroid scandal and getting booed. He was a babyface in WCW, but he was starting to get booed in WCW, so they just decided to not resist and go with the flow. And that moment really, I mean, that you don't get that moment, you don't get the same effect.
Well, I think also if you don't have that moment, you don't have a Monday Night War.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a Monday Night War, would they have allowed the Clique to do that sort of stuff that made DX DX? Or would it have been a very tamed and conservative, family-friendly group?
It would have been tame and family-friendly, and it wouldn't have had the level of realism that the NWO brought. You wouldn't have had the escalated level of violence. Mm-hmm. You would have had almost a complacency, because when you don't have somebody nipping at your heels, when you don't have somebody coming after you, you can get complacent. And with Vince having competition for, like, serious competition for the first time in maybe ever, it brought out the best in him.
So, what about from a different angle? What about you go into the summer of 2002? Shawn Michaels now joins the NWO with Kevin Nash and X-Pac. We know Scott Hall was gone, but potentially if they could have told him, hey, this is coming, maybe they could have got him to come back. Maybe they could have just gave him a little bit of time, or rehab or whatever, and had him come back. But they start talking at that point, before Nash gets injured, of they're going to bring Triple H into the NWO with them.
Yeah, I remember that.
Had they done that, had you created the clique at that point, because now you've had the NWO, you've had the Attitude Era, so you've had Degeneration X, you're technically towards the end of the Attitude Era, start of the Ruthless Aggression Era, so they were still able to doing more things on TV than what would be acceptable now.
Right.
Had the clique formed then on TV, how big could it have been?
It could actually have been pretty big. The one thing you might have run into is who's going to be number one? Who's going to be the top dog?
Of the group?
Yeah, because you have HBK, who we didn't know if he was going to be able to perform in the ring or not. You got Nash, former world champion. You got Triple H, former multi-time world champion, had been married to the boss's daughter in storyline, and would later actually be married to the boss's daughter. So who's going to be the top dog? So that would have been the problem that you could have run into. But if they could have found a way to maybe, I don't know, maybe have like the clique be some kind of a power or authority figure like the McMahon Helmsley era, it could have worked.
Yeah, see, that's another thing I had wished over time. I wished at some points that when Triple H started moving, when he became the COO on camera, I had hoped that they would do a thing like that where he would make Shawn like an official like spokesperson and Hall and Nash as his private security, and you know, just things to bring him back. I remember another point sitting there while Shawn was still actually wrestling and thinking to myself, when DX was going to put together a Survivor Series team, I remember sitting there like, oh, please make it. They're going to bring out these three guys. You know, they're going to bring out Hall and Nash and X-Pac, and this is going to be their Survivor Series team. So, yeah, just the click together on camera is something that I had always wanted to see and just never actually got to see it.
Yeah, we never got to. Yeah, I think we finally got to see it at Shawn's Hall of Fame induction.
And then, you know, we got to see it, you know, on Raw a few times here and there, since then. But never while any of them were, other than Triple H, while any of them were actually active.
Right.
So thinking back to the original DX, what was the importance of the original DX in terms of launching the Attitude Era?
I think that the original DX, they were the ones that kind of showed that this is what the people want. I mean, it's like it's like it was said they're acting sophomoric. Well, a lot of your audience is sophomores in high school.
Right.
I was a sophomore in college watching Degeneration X. I mean, so I could connect with that. I mean, that's what they can connect to. They can't connect to like Bastion Booger and stuff like that. I mean, so they were the ones that said, hey, this is the way the world is going. I mean, you got Jerry Springer going on, you got like the tabloid TV and all that stuff going. This is what people want. And they were the ones to say, we're going to do it. I mean, and you can yell at us when we get back behind the curtain. The USA can threaten us. We're still going to do it.
And a lot of times, you know, you see so much just feels the same over and over again in wrestling now, where in the Attitude Era, things were different. Austin wasn't like anyone else. And then you had Degeneration X, which was completely opposite of Steve Austin. You had Degeneration X was appealing to what they were looking for. They were looking for, let's go after a different audience. Let's go after that young male demographic.
Yeah.
And that DX spoke to what every young male found humorous at the time.
Which the NWO also did.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke to it with, like the gangster rap,
Right.
the gangster rap type style, and like the gang type warfare, stuff like that. They both really honed in on their audience, which may have grown up with the 80s style and stuff like that, but by 1998, Europe went like sexual innuendos and hot chicks.
Yeah, and when you had, the NWO was able to pull back people who had been Hogan fans in the 80s and hadn't watched wrestling in a long time. WWE was able to pull in mainstream crowds with Mike Tyson, but then things like Degeneration X and Steve Austin kept those crowds there.
Yep.
And so, when you think of the original Degeneration X, what sort of influence do you feel they had on the business?
The influence that they had on the business was that they opened the door for other characters to basically push that envelope. They pushed the door. They pushed the DX was the original like revolutionaries. Now since that door has been opened, now other people can go there. DX, kind of opened the door for the Nation of Domination. They opened the door for like The Rock to become The Rock because they just showed that you can get over by just being who you are and not having to have a character created for you.
Mm-hmm. And it was also part of that bringing a different element of entertainment, which we would see, branch out across the board. Like, you mentioned The Rock, we would see Mankind show a humorous side and everything. And so, yeah, you see that DX influence of bringing the comedy across of, if it wasn't for DX, you probably wouldn't have had a Val Venus.
Oh, that's one of the ones I was actually thinking of too, Val Venus.
Yeah, and you probably, if it wasn't, The Godfather may not have been turned into that character.
Right.
And so, it's kind of interesting to see that, okay, let's take sexual jokes. Okay, that's working. Here's what else we can do with it.
Yeah, and this is something I just thought of. What about the influence of maybe he was kind of like a forerunner, Goldust?
Yeah.
Think about the stuff that he did. With the androgynous type storyline and just the way that he was, flirting with Piper, the kiss on Ahmed Johnson when he's supposed to be giving him mouth to mouth. He kind of scratched the surface, but it wasn't ready to go full bore just yet. But I don't think his influence can be downplayed either. DX, no doubt, took it and they pushed the envelope, but Goldust really had, he had a role kind of
in ushering in the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what about the importance of Degeneration X on the career of Triple H?
I don't think without, I think without DX, I don't think Triple H gets to be a main eventer as quickly as he did. I think he probably gets there, but he's coming out of the curtain call where he's getting, he's taking the brunt of he's taking the punishment basically, and for him to rebound from that and stick by Shawn Michaels, and DX put him on the map. The night after WrestleMania 14, DX is his, and he takes it and runs with it, and then it's the next year by August August 23rd, 1999, Ames, Iowa. Why I remember that? I mean, both my nieces were born in Ames, and August 23rd is Kobe's birthday, so that's why I remember that so well. He wins the world title. I mean, he wins that basically all after he comes out of Degeneration X.
And when you think about it, it also gave him a chance to break into a different character. So he had been playing the Greenwich Blue Blood.
Yeah.
And considered by a lot of people, they were saying he was mid-card for life. And you had Vince Russo pushing that no, he could do more.
Yeah.
So you get him into DX, and he has the opportunity to talk on the microphone and to show a different side of himself.
Yeah, he's able to get away from that Greenwich Blue Blood, which is the character he had been doing when he was in WCW, but that's not really who he was.
Yeah, and he was able to show that wit and to kind of be smart aleck and show attitude and to show humor through DX. And doing that was able to take him to become a hot star. I mean, had he not injured his knee and, at SummerSlam 98 with that ladder match with The Rock, he's probably in the main event picture a lot sooner than what he was. Instead of waiting for the following SummerSlam, he may have been up there in line taking on Austin, earlier that summer, or maybe even in the spring of 99, because him and The Rock, both catapulted from that.
Yeah, he and The Rock were neck and neck at that point, and DX was super hot. I still think, even had the knee injury happen, I think he still ends up being the champion at about the same time, because like that collision, that magic that he had with Austin and The Rock is like you can't equal that.
I still think Austin and The Rock happened first, because I think Rock just got a little bit hotter, a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But no doubting that Rock would get even bigger after that. But I think potentially around King of the Ring. Yeah. Instead of going through the Austin and with the ladder matches with the McMahons and stuff, I think that may have been Austin and Triple H.
That very well could have been.
So, what about you mentioned earlier, you talked about Jerry Springer at this time. Is there anything more symbolic of in wrestling as kind of really showing the times than what the original DX reflected of the time of its creation?
I mean, they were a perfect reflection of the time.
I mean, you see things like, the Rock and Roll Express with, the bandanas on the wrist and dressing of the look of the 80s. But there was a look. A lot of things had the look. But DX not only had the look, but they had the feel of the time of what was going on. Yeah,
because in the 90s, I mean, everything just had a lot of an edge. I mean, the hip-hop culture, I mean, like just music culture in general, movies, I mean, everything was just going to another level because technology is starting to open more doors, and I mean, it's starting to allow you to do more things creatively than you could ever do before. And then this thing called the internet is allowing you to have a greater reach also.
Yeah, so I think kind of really covers, the original DX, everything kind of gets started in around SummerSlam 97, building up all the way running through WrestleMania 14. So definitely DX is a topic to kind of stick with, later on down the line, come back to visit and do the second incarnation of DX, which started after WrestleMania 14.
Yeah, which is the one that really...
a lot of people think of when you think of Degeneration X.
Yeah, because that was the one that really made Triple H a star.
Right, and when you look at the numbers where Tyson pulled in a lot of viewers, that mainstream audience continued to pour in after, and a lot of that happened after WrestleMania 14, so Shawn was already gone.
Right.
So a lot of people, when their first experiences of the WWF were post the original Degeneration X, and Degeneration X version 2, if you would.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to discuss that. It'll be fun to discuss that incarnation of DX, and also kind of like the end of it, which was an interesting swerve.
Right, and that incarnation lasted a lot longer than the original, so that'll definitely be interesting to cover. But our next episode, coming to you next week, we're going to take a look at, we covered Survivor Series 98. If you haven't checked that out, it is on our YouTube channel. But hitting you with the following pay-per-view. So we're going to take you from the Monday Night Raw right after Survivor Series up until Rock Bottom in your house, December 1998.
Yeah, which is, The Rock is in his first run as WWF champion, and I'm excited to discuss that one because it's been a while since I watched that show, but The Rock is my all-time favorite. Oh, I'll be watching that one. I'll probably end up watching it this weekend between football games because it's conference championships, which David's Notre Dame Fighting Irish don't have to play in because they've already pretty much got their playoff spot clinched. So, yeah, I'll be checking out some Rock Bottom this weekend.
Yeah, and it's, definitely we're, following the build-up where wrestling was super hot at the time and leading up towards WrestleMania 15, and this is the next step on that course of building up to Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, possibly the two hottest stars of all time colliding at WrestleMania 15 and their first WrestleMania showdown. So,
yep, can't wait.
All right, so if you haven't already, definitely check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, give us a like on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we will see you next time when we cover Rock Bottom.
Peace.